Some actors just feel like they were carved out of American bedrock. Men and women whose faces and voices are so iconic, they seem to define a whole era of movies. Sam Elliott is one of those legends. That voice, a deep rumble that sounds like it's coming from the center of the earth, and a presence that just takes over the screen. For more than 50 years, he's been the ultimate cowboy, the wise mentor, the tough-as-nails veteran who always feels real. He's built a nearly 100-film legacy on quiet strength and a kind of integrity you can't fake, but inside that long list of classic roles, there's one from 1989 that's different. It's a performance loved by millions, in a movie that became a cult phenomenon. Yet, for Elliott himself, looking back on that film might be a completely different experience. It's a role that's believed to be too painful for him to revisit. The reason has nothing to do with bad blood on set, creative fights, or bad reviews. The truth is much more grounded, a story about a painful secret he kept from everyone, buried under one of the most physically brutal performances of his entire life. Today, we're digging into the grueling on-set injury and the incredible perseverance behind one of Sam Elliott's most celebrated roles, and exploring why the memory of it may be too difficult for the legend himself to ever want to watch again. To really get this story, you first have to get the man at the center of it. Samuel Pack Elliott isn't just an actor, he's a whole mood. Born in Sacramento, with family roots in Texas going all the way back to the Alamo, he was practically destined to play the American frontiersman. His relationship with his father was complicated. His dad worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and wasn't thrilled about his son's acting dreams, but he gave him a powerful sense of duty and a work ethic that was just as rugged as the landscapes he'd later be famous for. By the late 1980s, Sam Elliott had a solid place in Hollywood. He was the noble officer in Gettysburg, the loving biker in Mask, and the voice of reason in so many other parts. That mustache wasn't just a mustache, it was a character statement. His voice didn't just deliver lines, it carried wisdom, gravity, and a hint of world weariness. He was the guy you hired when you needed a character to feel 100% authentic. He stood for a kind of old-school masculinity, not the loud, muscle-bound kind that was blowing up the box office, but a quieter, more thoughtful version of strength, and the box office back then was a wild place. It was the age of the action hero, before superhero movies were the main event. The kings of the screen were guys like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Bruce Willis. Action movies were all about impossible odds, massive explosions, and heroes who could get beat up for 2 hours and walk away with a smirk and a flesh wound. The plots were simple, the good guys were good, and the bad guys were disposable. It was a genre that celebrated pure, unapologetic spectacle. Into this world of explosions and one-liners came a project that looked like just another action flick on the surface, but had a weirdly philosophical soul. The movie was Roadhouse. The idea was beautifully simple: a legendary bouncer, or cooler, with a philosophy degree from NYU and the Zen calm of a martial arts master, gets hired to clean up the sleaziest, most dangerous honky-tonk in Missouri, the infamous Double Deuce. The cooler's name was James Dalton, played by Patrick Swayze. Swayze, at that point, was on top of the world. Dirty Dancing had made him a global superstar, an icon of sensitive, smoldering masculinity. But he was way more than a handsome face who could dance. He was a trained martial artist, a gymnast, and was hungry to prove he could be a real action star. Dalton was the perfect role for him. A character who was half philosopher, half brawler, a guy who could quote ancient thinkers 1 minute and rip a man's throat out the next. The director, Rowdy Harrington, wanted to make more than just a brain-dead action movie. He saw it as a modern western, where the dusty town was a neon-lit bar, and the lone sheriff was a cooler named Dalton. But every sheriff needs a mentor, a seasoned pro who taught him everything he knows and can still throw down when things get ugly. This character was the anchor for Dalton. His name was Wade Garrett. When you list the qualities needed for Wade Garrett, you're basically just describing Sam Elliott. The part needed someone who radiated authority and history from the second he appeared. You had to believe he was the best in the business, the guy even the legendary Dalton looked up to. He had to be tough, charming, and effortlessly cool, but with a deep weariness that hinted at a long, violent life. The moment Wade Garrett was written, there was really only one person in Hollywood who could make him instantly believable. The role wasn't just written for Sam Elliott, it felt like it was born from his entire public image. The offer went out, and Elliott said yes. It was a perfect match. He'd be working with Swayze, an actor he genuinely respected for his work ethic and physical commitment. The movie promised intense, well-choreographed fights and a character that was right in his sweet spot. On paper, it was a dream job. It should have been a fun, triumphant experience. But what started as the perfect role would soon turn into a private, daily grind against pain, one that would forever change how he remembered the film. On a movie set, everything is fake. The punches, the falls, the explosions, it's all carefully planned by stunt experts and stitched together with clever editing to look dangerous while keeping everyone safe. But sometimes, reality crashes the party. The line between performance and real pain disappears, and the physical demands of a role take a serious, lasting toll. For Sam Elliott on the set of Roadhouse, that line was completely shattered. The secret he was hiding was a debilitating knee injury that he suffered with through the entire shoot. Years later, Elliott revealed the truth with his usual blunt honesty. When asked about filming Roadhouse, he said, "I had a bad knee. I had a torn ligament in my knee. I got the shit kicked out of me for the entire film." That single sentence tells you everything. It peels back the curtain on the myth of the invincible Hollywood tough guy. A torn ligament isn't just a mild sprain. It's a serious, painful injury that makes the whole joint unstable. For most people, it would mean weeks of rest and physical therapy. For an actor in the middle of shooting one of the most physical action movies of the decade, it was a disaster. Every scene, every step, every single moment on his feet would have been an exercise in agony. And Roadhouse wasn't a movie where you could just hang back. The whole vibe of the film was built on raw, bone-crunching realism. The director and the legendary stunt coordinator, Benny "the Jet" Urquidez, wanted the fights to feel real. This wasn't supposed to be the slick, dance-like fighting of a kung fu movie. It was meant to be the ugly, messy brawling you'd see in a dangerous bar. If it didn't look like it hurt, it wasn't good enough. This meant the actors, including Elliott, were right in the middle of it, performing a ton of the fight choreography themselves. Now, try to imagine doing that with a knee that could give out at any second. Imagine the sharp pain shooting up your leg with every pivot, kick, or lunge. Wade Garrett wasn't a desk jockey. He was a man of action. He fights side by side with Dalton in a whirlwind of controlled violence. He had to run, jump, and fall, all while projecting an aura of total confidence, and hiding a secret that screamed the opposite. The most incredible part of this isn't just the injury, but the fact that he told no one. He kept the severity of it a complete secret from the cast and crew. That decision says so much about him and the unwritten rules of that generation in Hollywood. On a big movie production, an injury to a main actor is a producer's worst nightmare. Admitting how bad it was could have shut down production, forced rewrites, or even gotten him replaced. The attitude back then was, the show must go on. Complaining could be seen as a sign of weakness. For a man like Sam Elliott, whose whole career was built on being reliable and professional, the idea of letting the team down was probably unthinkable. So, he just pushed through the pain. He'd show up on set every day, his knee probably screaming, and transform into the unflappable Wade Garrett. The internal struggle must have been insane, the constant, gnawing pain, the fear of his knee buckling in the middle of a take. He was fighting a silent, lonely battle. When the cameras were rolling, he was the picture of cool. The second the director yelled, "Cut," the mask came off, and the grim reality set back in. It adds a deep layer of irony to his character. Wade Garrett is the guy who tells Dalton the rules of being a cooler, with the most important one being, expect the unexpected. On set, Elliott's own unexpected opponent was his own body. His claim of getting the shit kicked out of him wasn't an exaggeration. It was the literal, painful truth of his life on that movie set. The iconic performance fans fell in love with was forged in a fire of secret, relentless pain. When you rewatch Roadhouse knowing about Sam Elliott's secret injury, the movie completely transforms. What was once just a blast of 80s action becomes a monument to one man's endurance. The performance is no longer just an act, it's a document of a silent, heroic fight. Take Wade Garrett's grand entrance. He doesn't just walk into the double deuce, he materializes out of the chaos like a ghost, calmly sizing up the bedlam. He then diffuses a tense situation with charm and the unspoken threat of violence. On screen, it's the definition of cool. But now, picture the reality. Every step across that messy, crowded floor was a calculated risk. The simple act of standing and shifting his weight would have sent lightning bolts of pain up his leg. Yet, you don't see a flicker of it on his face. Not a hint of weakness. The heart of the movie, though, is the fight scenes. Let's look at the huge brawl where Wade and Dalton team up to fight off a mob of thugs. The choreography is fast and brutal. Wade is a whirlwind, using pool cues, fists, and anything he can grab to take down attackers. He moves with a fluid power that completely betrays his condition. There's a quick moment where he vaults over a pool table. For a man with a torn ligament, a move like that is incredibly risky. The chance of his knee buckling under that strain was huge. The fact that he nailed it, take after take, is just a stunning display of control and sheer will. He wasn't just acting tough, he was being tougher than anyone on set could have possibly known. That dedication was no doubt fueled by the man fighting beside him, Patrick Swayze. Elliott has always spoken of Swayze with deep respect, calling him a gentleman and a true professional. Swayze was famous for his commitment. He was a trained dancer and a black belt who famously did his own stunts, even after cracking ribs and getting beat up on the Roadhouse set. Working next to someone with that level of dedication creates a powerful bond. Elliott, a pro's pro, would have felt a huge responsibility to match Swayze's intensity. They shared a belief that the truth of a performance came from commitment. He couldn't be the weak link. This mutual respect likely drove Elliott to push through the pain. He was suffering for the art, but he was also suffering for his partner. Making sure their on-screen bond as the world's greatest coolers felt real, and this is where it gets fascinating. The character of Wade Garrett is old school. He's a man from a tougher generation who carries his scars with quiet dignity. He's tired from a life of violence, but he never complains. The pain is just part of the job. In a wild twist of art imitating life, Sam Elliott's real-life struggle mirrored his characters. The actual pain he felt on set fed directly into his performance. That weariness in Wade Garrett's eyes? It wasn't just in the script, it was likely genuine exhaustion from his daily battle. Elliott didn't have to imagine what it felt like to be a battered warrior pushing through pain, he was living it. The grit wasn't an act. He poured his own real pain and perseverance into Wade Garrett, and in doing so, he turned a great action movie character into an unforgettable icon. After the shoot is over, the bruises heal and the ligaments mend, but the memory of the struggle sticks around. For an actor, a movie isn't just the 2 hours we see on screen, it's a chapter of their life defined by early mornings, long hours, and shared struggles. And when that chapter is defined by a secret, agonizing battle with pain, the final product can become something you just can't enjoy like everyone else. This is probably the key to understanding why Sam Elliott might never want to rewatch Roadhouse. While there is no direct, on-the-record quote from him saying, "I refuse to watch that film," you can understand why he wouldn't exactly have it on repeat. To watch Roadhouse wouldn't be to see the cool, iconic Wade Garrett. It would be like watching a documentary of his own suffering. Every fight scene could trigger the memory of his throbbing knee. Every confident step would be a reminder of the incredible effort it took. The movie isn't just a movie. It's a reminder of a private war he fought and won, but a war all the same. It's not about hating the film, it's about the deeply personal and painful memory attached to it. The legacy of Roadhouse itself makes this story even more interesting. When it came out in 1989, critics hated it. They called it ridiculous, over-the-top, B-movie trash. It was even nominated for 5 Golden Raspberry Awards, which honor the worst films of the year. They laughed at its mix of deep philosophy and brutal, throat-ripping violence. By all normal measures, Roadhouse should have vanished, but then a funny thing happened. The movie found a second life on VHS and cable TV. The exact things critics made fun of were what made it a cult classic. Audiences fell in love with its unique, unapologetic vibe. They loved the cheesy one-liners, the insane action, and Dalton's bizarre Zen-brawler philosophy. For its millions of fans, Roadhouse wasn't so bad it's good, it was just unironically great. And right at the heart of that cult classic was Wade Garrett. Dalton was the hero, but Wade was the film's soul. Sam Elliott's performance was praised even by critics who hated the movie. He brought a weight and effortless charm that lifted the entire project. For fans, Wade became one of his most beloved and quoted characters. His chemistry with Swayze was the emotional core of the movie, and his tragic, heroic exit is an all-time great moment in 80s action, and that's the strange paradox, isn't it? For the world, Roadhouse is a beloved classic, a source of joy and nostalgia. For Sam Elliott, it represents one of the most physically punishing experiences of his career. There's a huge gap between the public memory and the private one. When we see Wade Garrett, we see ultimate cool. Elliott likely remembers the immense effort. When we cheer during the fights, he likely remembers the searing pain. His perseverance created something that has brought joy to millions, but the artist paid a heavy price for it. The story of Sam Elliott and Roadhouse is way more than just a piece of behind-the-scenes trivia. It's a story about strength, integrity, and the unseen sacrifices baked into the movies we love. It humanizes a Hollywood icon, reminding us that behind these larger-than-life characters are real people dealing with pain and pressure. That we started with a question: why would an actor not want to watch one of his most famous movies? The answer isn't about ego, it's about personal cost. Sam Elliott showed up to a demanding action movie with a serious injury. Instead of backing out, he hid his struggle from everyone. He took that real, physical agony and the mental strength it took to overcome it and poured it all into his character, Wade Garrett. The result was a performance with shocking realism. The grit and quiet power of Wade Garrett wasn't an illusion, it was a reflection of the actor's own battle. He honored his commitment to the movie, to his co-star Patrick Swayze, and to his own professional code. In doing so, he created an iconic character in one of cinema's greatest cult classics, but that victory came at a price. For us, Roadhouse is a thrilling ride. For him, it's likely a 2-hour chronicle of pain. It's a powerful example of the silent endurance that goes into making Hollywood magic. Sam Elliott's performance in Roadhouse is a masterclass in acting, but the story behind it is a masterclass in character. It cements his legend not just as a great actor, but as a man of incredible integrity and will. What do you think? Does knowing this story change how you see the film? And what's your favorite Sam Elliott performance? Is it Wade Garrett, or another one of his legendary roles? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this look behind the curtain, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Thanks for watching.